Okay, so years and years ago, we used to ski on skis that looked like these. And there was a phone that was attached to the wall with a cord on it, and you could only talk on the phone as far as that cord would reach. And there was also this thing called a pension. Now, pensions are pretty hard to come by anymore, unless you're one of the lucky few that maybe is an educator or works for some sort of government agency where you still have a pension, or maybe like an Ernst & Young, or some of these corporations still have pensions, but not very many of them. So a pension is really hard to come by. Okay, so whatever happened to the pension anyway? Well, in the 80s, remember, they came out with these qualified plans, and these corporations thought, hey, this is a great idea. Let's replace our pension with these qualified plans. And remember, Wall Street liked the idea of promoting all their mutual funds through these 401ks and these qualified plans, and so those became really popular. And so quickly, the pension became a thing of the past. Just like the phone on the wall is no longer a thing, pensions are really no longer a thing, unless you're lucky enough to be an educator or maybe work for a large corporation or some government entity where you still have a pension. But very few people have pensions anymore, so now we're relying on these 401ks or these qualified plans for our retirement. But what was so cool about a pension anyway? Well, a pension, if you dedicated so many years of your life to service with this particular organization, they would guarantee you an income the rest of your life. Now, how would they calculate that? Well, sometimes they would take the last 3 years of your income and they would average it out and maybe give you a certain percentage of like 70% of that or something like that. So a large majority of your income from your working years is going to be paid to you during your retirement years. And the best part about a pension is you actually can't outlive a pension. So whether you die at age 85 or whether you live until you're 105, that income would continue to pay out. And some of them even have a cost of living adjustment, or a COLA, which means that the income actually increases during retirement years to keep up with inflation. Isn't that pretty cool? Okay, so if we don't have a pension, what are we going to do? Well, we have this qualified plan. So how does a qualified plan look during retirement? Well, there's this thing we call the 4% rule. Now, like everything, this is debatable, whether it's 3%, 4%, 5%. But the idea behind this is that the 4% rule states that you can withdraw 4% of your portfolio in retirement and not have to worry too much about outliving your money, because the idea would be is that if you had $1 million, when it comes time to retire, you might shift it into something a little bit more conservative. Maybe like a bond portfolio, because you don't want to risk losing all your money by having it in the stocks, right? So you might go into something a little bit more, conservative that's paying around 5%. Now you've typically got some sort of a fee associated with that, some sort of management fee. So if you're paying 1% in fees, then the idea would be if you take out 4% of your portfolio every year to live on, you're not going to run out of money, because you're basically going to be living on the interest of this $1 million. Now, something to think about though is that if you're getting $40,000 a year during retirement, the idea would be is that it's always $40,000 a year if you're just trying to live on the interest. Because if you keep spending your interest of this $1 million every year, then that $1 million is not going to grow, right? So you're going to be lucky to get $40,000 a year every year, assuming that everything goes according to plan and that this $1 million doesn't start to be depleted. What's one of the biggest fears of baby boomers right now is outliving their money. Because what happens if you live longer than you thought, and if the market conditions aren't what you thought they would be, and you start dipping into that $1 million, as you spend the $1 million, you're earning less compound interest. And so it really starts to create a negative compounding effect, right? Where you're getting less and less interest every year as you're spending more and more money to try to keep up with inflation or whatever the case may be, and you run the risk of running out of money. So a pension, where it would give you this increased income and, better yet, would pay you an income the rest of your life, is extremely powerful. So I want to show you how to create your own personal pension with your qualified plan or any other money that you have. So let's take a look. Okay, so if you're not one of those fortunate souls with a pension plan and you want to create your own personal pension plan with your qualified plan money or maybe some taxable account money, what can you do? Well, you can use an annuity. Now, when you hear the word annuity, you might freak out because they kind of have a negative connotation, mainly because years ago, the annuities that you would buy back then, you annuitized your money, which means that you gave the insurance company your money and they would give you a guaranteed income the rest of your life, which is pretty cool. But if you die the next day, they got to keep all the money. So a lot of people didn't like those. Now, annuities have changed a lot over the years, and there's a lot of different types of annuities. But the definition of an annuity is an agreement between you and another party where money is deposited and later returned in a series of payments. Okay, so there are three common forms of annuities. First, there's a public annuity, most commonly known as Social Security. The second is a private annuity. That's the pension that we've been talking about, where if you work for a large corporation, a government entity, or maybe an educational organization that still offers an actual pension, then that's obviously a type of an annuity. And the third option is what we call an asset-backed annuity, meaning that you're actually giving the insurance company some money, and then in exchange, they're going to give you a guaranteed lifetime income, like an actual pension from a private organization or just like Social Security. And certain annuities even have a cost of living adjustment type feature built into them where your income can even increase during the retirement years. All right, so let's take a closer look at asset-backed annuity characteristics. Asset-backed annuities can be held in either tank and inside or outside a qualified plan. So you can actually put money into an annuity using your pre-tax dollars, or you can take an existing qualified plan like a 401k or an IRA and you can roll that over into an annuity without changing any of the taxes or without creating a taxable event. You also decide how much to contribute and when to receive the income. An account growth depends on the type of annuity. The only financial product with the ability to pay income even after the tank is drained. So just like a pension, right? Even if you lived until you were 105 years old, an annuity, an asset-backed annuity, is going to pay you a guaranteed income the rest of your life from the insurance company. So the insurance company is going to give you this income for the rest of your life, and you can't outlive that income. One of the most powerful aspects of this particular type of annuity. And if you died, if you have what we call an income rider that's paying you this income, if you died, if you have any money left, that money would actually go to your beneficiaries. Unlike annuitizing the annuity where you give up all the money to your beneficiaries. But let's say that the account runs out. If the account runs out, there's no more money to give to your beneficiaries anyway, but your income doesn't stop. And that is what's so powerful about this type of an annuity. So there are three different types of annuities. There are fixed annuities, indexed annuities, and variable annuities. Let's take a look at fixed annuities. Okay, a fixed annuity is going to be in the safe tank, right? Because it's going to be very conservative. In fact, the return on the annuity is going to be a fixed rate of return. Typically, the insurance company is going to invest all the money into a really conservative bond portfolio, and then they're going to give you a certain percentage of that. So it might pay anywhere from 1% to 5% or better, depending on what the fixed rates are paying at the time. But it's going to be a set rate for the life of the contract, and so it's going to give you a guaranteed rate of return. Depending on the selected riders, there are fees, but typically with a fixed annuity, the fees are going to be optional. So you can actually put money into a fixed annuity without any fees at all. Now, if you want like income riders or other benefits, then there are some fees associated with those. Okay, now let's take a look at an indexed annuity where it pays based on the value of an external index. Okay, so the way that works is that this is also in the safe tank because it's guaranteed to not lose, but it has the upside potential tied to the market through an index. Okay? So the account and income growth is based on limited market participation. So you're not going to get all of the upside, but you're not going to participate in any of the downside either. So it's kind of like an elevator. An elevator can go up and down, which would be the market, versus an escalator, which typically just goes up, in this case, like the indexed annuity. So you can see the line here. It can't go down. It can only go up, but it might only get a portion of the upside. The indexed annuities are usually based on some sort of a spread or some sort of a cap and a floor. In other words, in most cases, the floor is going to be 0, meaning that it can't go below the floor, right? There's also going to be a cap, meaning that it's not going to get a full market participation, right? It's going to cap out on the upside. Or they might use a participation, where you're going to get a certain participation or a certain percentage of the upside. So maybe if a certain index goes up, 8%, you might get 50% of the upside. So you might only get 4%. So it's based on either a participation or a percentage of the upside, or a cap, or a floor, or a combination. Also, like a fixed annuity, depending on what riders you're selecting, you could have fees, or depending on some products, they may not even have fees for certain riders. It just depends on the products. But there's no set fee on most indexed annuities. The fees are typically optional. Okay, now let's look at a variable annuity where you actually own investments inside the account. They typically call those sub-accounts. Okay, so let's take a closer look at a variable annuity. A variable annuity is going to sit in the risk tank. Okay, it's over here in the risk tank, not in the safe tank. And the reason is because your money is going to be invested inside what we call sub-accounts. Kind of like mutual funds, but they call them sub-accounts. And it's going to be based on market conditions. Your money is literally going to be invested in the market, and you're going to get the lows and you're going to get the highs, whatever the market gives you. Also, in a variable annuity, you get to select your investments. It's kind of like setting up a 401k or another investment where you get to select the sub-accounts. So you could actually choose how aggressively you want to be invested in the market or how conservatively you want to be invested in the market. Now, variable annuities are known to be a little bit more expensive because the fees are a part of the base contract. So there's usually fees on top of the sub-account fees, and they tend to be a little bit more on the expensive side. You can also add additional riders on top that would also increase the fees even more. So if you're looking into a variable annuity, you just want to be a little cautious of the fees and make sure you really understand all the fees that are involved. Okay, so what are our key takeaways when considering an annuity for a personal pension plan? Well, the first thing to consider is liquidity. The reason is because most annuities, unless you have a rider that says you have access to all of your money, most annuities have limited access to the money in the beginning. There's typically some sort of a time frame where there's going to be a penalty to get to all of your money. So you're pretty committed when you get an annuity for a certain period of time. Now, most annuities are going to give you some sort of 10% access to the money without a penalty or something like that. It just depends on the annuity. But usually you can get access to some of the money without a penalty on an annual basis. Now, these asset-backed annuities are backed by large insurance companies. In fact, one of the insurance companies we work with is a $158 billion company with $150 billion in liabilities, meaning they have an $8.8 billion surplus when you look at all of the numbers. And that's a very financially stable company, but it is an insurance company that's backing this personal pension or this annuity income. So if you're looking at a guaranteed lifetime income from this annuity, it's backed by the financial strength of the insurance company. So you want to make sure that you get a highly rated and financially stable insurance company. The other thing to consider when choosing an annuity is the growth of your money. Although I don't know that I consider this the main thing to consider, because if you're looking at this for a guaranteed lifetime income stream, that might be the main thing to consider. But you should consider the growth of the money as well. Are you going to go with a fixed annuity that is going to be fixed at a relatively lower rate of return? Or are you going to go with an indexed annuity where you're going to get the floor on the bottom and a cap on the upside, so you're going to participate in market gains, but not get the full upside? Or are you just going to go fully invested in the market where you're going to take the losses along with the big gains? That is going to affect how the money is actually going to grow inside the annuity. Okay, like I said, the main benefit, in my opinion, to get an annuity is this guaranteed lifetime income. Even once your account is gone, whether it's in the safe tank or the risk tank, no matter what type of an annuity it is, if you have that income rider feature where it gives you that guaranteed lifetime income the rest of your life, that is what's so powerful about an annuity and how you can create that personal pension. In fact, they even have a survivor option where you could choose the option that if you died, your spouse continues to get that income until their death. So it's pretty powerful from a guaranteed lifetime income standpoint. So those are some things to consider when creating your own personal pension plan using an asset-backed annuity.